Hey everyone, in today's video I'm going to be teaching you guys a really easy way to memorize powers of I. So for example, if you're given the question I to the power of 452, it'll be really easy for you to just immediately solve instead of having to repeat and do numerous other steps to get to your answer. So the first step you're going to want to remember is the basic value of I. So in complex numbers, we know that I is equal to the square root of -1. When we're thinking about I squared, essentially it's I times I. You're multiplying I twice. So essentially you're going to multiply square root of -1 by itself. So square root of -1 times square root of -1. And you know with any square roots that if you multiply two square roots together and the number inside is the same, your final answer will just be that number. For example, we know that square root of 9 times the square root of 9 is just equal to 3 times 3, which is just equal to 9. So the number will remain the same. So in this case, our final answer will be -1. So we know that our number will be -1. That proves that I squared is equal to -1. Now let's think about I cubed. I cubed is the equivalent of I squared times I. So I squared we know is -1, so it's going to be -1 times I. So it's just going to be -I. Now let's do I to the power of 4. I to the power of 4 is just going to be I to the power of 3 times I. I to the power of 3 is -I. And I is just I, so it's going to be -I squared. Now, we can simplify this a bit more. We know that I squared is equal to -1, so it's negative of -1, which is just equal to +1. So we know I to the power of 4 is equal to +1. So we have I equals the square root of -1, I squared is equal to -1, I cubed is equal to -I, and I to the power of 4 is equal to 1. So using this, we can solve for many more complex powers of I. So let's do two really quick examples. Let's do I to the power of 16. Whenever you have a number, you're going to take your exponent and you're going to divide it by 4. So in this case, our exponent is 16. 16 divided by 4 is equal to 4. The remainder is equal to 0 because 4 goes into 16 4 times. That means it's going to be I to the power of 0, which is just equal to 1. So our final answer is 1. So I to the power of 16 is equal to 1. You're going to repeat the same process for any other exponent that you have. For example, if it's I to the power of 23, you're going to divide, so it's going to be 23 divided by 4. We know that 4 goes into 25 times, so it's going to be 5, and your remainder is going to be equal to 3, because 5 times 4 is 20, and then 23 minus 20 is 3. So that means we're going to take the power that has 3, so it's going to be I to the power of 3. We know that I to the power of 3 is -I, so I to the power of 23 is equal to -I. It's going to be the same. So essentially, we're just dividing our exponent by 4 and then using that remainder to be able to look at which specific I power we need to use.